Good morning. So let's get to it. So let's talk a little bit about the scariest thing I know about in programming. Now, this is and unfortunately, I am actually doing this at work right now, and a very fortunate colleague of mine has been stuck doing it for 2 weeks. So, what am I talking about? Oh, can you guess? Can you guess what's the scariest thing in programming? Well, the scariest thing in programming is if you are the unfortunate person who has to refactor a really large piece of JavaScript. And why is this so scary? And for those of you who have done it, you probably know what I'm going to say next. For those of you who've never done it, be very happy that you haven't. So, the reason why this is the scariest thing you can do is because if you have production code, a large one, let's say you have a React application or you have something like Angular or like anything that has a lot of JavaScript, and you need to refactor a significant amount of that, because JavaScript is a loosely typed language, you will absolutely break something. And that may not sound so scary to you, but it's really scary when you change something and every single move you make, every piece of code you move or touch or whatever, you're literally risking with every move you make to either, use the wrong spelling or forgetting that there are references somewhere else that is referencing this exact thing there. So you have to make sure that you're checking all the imports, making sure that you're searching the project for anything that's related to that file before you touch it. It's really tricky, guys. Like, it is really, really, really tricky to do this without any type of regression. Now, I'm fortunate enough to be one of those people who's been through that hell so many times that I actually developed a few, even my coding style has developed in kind of like towards figuring out how to do this without completely breaking everything in it, like I'm touching basically. Now, the thing is, this is literally the worst thing you can do for your project. Like, rather, long term, it's very beneficial. Like, it's going to be, of course it's the right thing to do. We all know it's the right thing to do. It's something that should be done, but I advise you that if you do it, do not underestimate it. Do not underestimate it. Make sure that and this is also a little bit tricky. The thing is that if you go to your boss and you tell them, oh, we need to refactor this JavaScript here, odds are that your boss is going to ask you, okay, well, why? Is it important? And you're going to say, yeah, it's very important. And then the boss is going to ask you, okay, how long is that going to take? And your estimate is going to be based on everything going smoothly. And if you say something along the lines, which I've heard this 100 times, oh yeah, it's a simple refactor, it's no big deal. If you say that, then you're either lying to that person, you have never done a major refactor of a JavaScript code base before, or you're just ignorant, or maybe you're a super coder, I don't know. Maybe you can actually, I don't know, do binary search in your mind or something like that, or read binary. But this is not a trivial thing to do. So to bring it back to my colleague, which is he's a great guy. I love that guy. He's not only smart, he's handsome as well, which gives him that magic two thing. Like, you can only be one thing. You cannot be like more than good at one thing at the same time. So I hate his guts and I love him at the same time. Anywho, he has for the last 2 weeks been in charge of not only refactoring an entire really large application for our company, but he's also been in the unfortunate situation that as he goes along and he refactors this major piece of code, people are of course still delivering stories, and me included. So he has to deal with all the merge requests as well, which makes the fact that he actually delivered this just a few days ago And I was with him all the entire way. I was sitting right next to him, and like we had a lot of discussions and like tried to do our best to, you know, regression tests and so forth. And it actually kind of feels that it's working. We haven't really, you know, rigorously tested, but it does feel the way that, you know, feel like it's working. Now, the reason why we could do this with a lot of confidence is because it's not a user, it's an internal system, so it feels much safer to do it that way. Now, why am I talking to you about this? Well, this is really about two things. First and foremost, this is an argument that I put towards using something like TypeScript, or ideally you should have, like, we need types in JavaScript, guys. We need it so bad. Please, we need it. Because typing takes away like all of this. Like, types is amazing. It is the best concept that's ever been introduced into, well, not the best. It's very nice. Let's just say that it's very, very, very nice. Types makes things so much easier when you refactor, because that's actually what I argue is the scariest thing for a programmer when you're dealing with a large refactor. If you have a loosely typed language like JavaScript, it gets really tricky really quickly. So the other thing I wanted to make an argument for is acceptance tests, or, well, unit tests as well. But testing, it's actually a little bit funny, because I actually argue that for a statically typed language, let's say, like, you know, as a startup, you have to move fairly quickly. And for those of you who have a little bit of experience, you know that moving quickly usually it's basically like saying, hey, we don't care much about testing, which for the most part is true. It's true in this situation as well. We don't care all that much about testing. My CTO will tell you that that's not the case, but, you know, when you read between the lines and you put him against the wall, what do you want, delivery speed or quality? He usually goes with, oh yeah, we test some stuff and then, you know, we focus on delivery speed, which is fine. It's perfectly understandable. But what I will argue is that not doing unit tests and so forth it's not that big of a deal in a typed language. And the reason is what I was stating earlier. In a typed language, like, a lot of the bugs, the most common stuff, if you have people who are really good at what they do, and they are, like, even really skilled programmers who can really refactor something without breaking the logic, because breaking the logic is really not the most common thing when you're just moving code around. It's more likely that you, like in a loosely typed language, that you make some small error here and there, or there's some small piece of that you're missing, like a variable declaration. Well, not something as major as that, but a reference that is put in the wrong place and so forth. These subtle small things that really, really mess up your application when it hits production. So that, in my opinion, means that especially in a loosely typed language like JavaScript, unit testing and acceptance testing and like all of that stuff, it becomes so much more important, because you don't have a compiler, you don't have types, you don't have anything to fall back to tell you if you made a human error or some small mistake. If you're really lucky, you make something major, like, well, you have a reference to a function name and then you call it something else. You put an S in there more than, you know, or the name is incorrect. That's a big issue. It's going to be, you know, you're going to catch that very quickly. But then there are these small things that could go wrong, which won't be there, like at bundle time if you're using Webpack or Browserify or something like that. So this is the scariest, in my opinion, the scariest thing you can do in programming. Major refactor of a JavaScript code base. And the best tip I can give you is that if you have things like that happening on your side, either add unit tests and so forth, because it will help with something like, if you have a unit tested JavaScript code base, refactoring becomes very easy. If you have 100%, it's very easy to do it. If you don't have any testing, anything like that, and you're going to do it, be very, very, very careful, and don't underestimate how much the time and work it will take for you, not just to do it, but also verify that everything works, because you're going to have to regression test it.